In 1967, 80-year-old Chiang Kai-shek looked at the mainland from Taiwan. After the founding of New China, Chairman Mao and Chiang Kai-shek never met again. But this does not mean that there is no contact between the two, but the contact between them is carried out in a special way. Chairman Mao saw that Chiang Kai-shek did not want to split China. In 1950, the Korean War broke out, and the United States sent the 7th Fleet into the Taiwan Strait. On June 27, Truman publicly threw out the theory that Taiwan's status has not been determined on the grounds that the Communist Party's occupation of Taiwan would directly endanger the security of the Pacific region. Chiang Kai-shek was in a very conflicted mood at that time. On the one hand, it is impossible to defend Taiwan with his own strength. Therefore, he hopes that the Americans will help him defend Taiwan, and that the protective umbrella of the U.S. 7th Fleet can exist in the Taiwan Strait for a long time. On the other hand, he also saw that the Americans had a conspiracy to split China, and Truman's Taiwan status is uncertain theory was part of their conspiracy to split China. Therefore, when the Americans discussed this matter with him before the Americans threw out the theory that Taiwan's status has not been determined, he did not agree. After repeated thinking and weighing, he finally made up his mind that even if the Americans withdrew the 7th Fleet in the Taiwan Strait, they would stick to the one China position. After seeing it, Chairman Mao said that Chiang Kai-shek still had a little conscience, he didn't want to split China, and he didn't want to become a sinner through the ages. In December 1954, the United States and Taiwan signed a mutual defense treaty against the mainland. In order to express the strong opposition of the Chinese government and to break the American conspiracy to stabilize the status quo in the Taiwan Strait, Chairman Mao decided to deal a certain blow to the United States and Chiang Kai-shek. On January 18, 1955, the Chinese People's Liberation Army carried out the first coordinated operation of the land, sea, and air forces since the founding of the People's Republic of China, and conquered Ujiangshan Island, which is the gateway to Taiwan, in one fell swoop. Mei Zhang panicked. In this process, the United States and Chiang Kai-shek each have their own plans. Chiang Kai-shek sought international support in order to expand his international living space and win more foreign aid. The Americans, on the other hand, intend to take this opportunity to separate Taiwan from China and create two Chinas. Chiang Kai-shek was also well aware of this American conspiracy, and he decided not to accept this good intention from the American president. On February 14 of that year, Chiang Kai-shek said in an answer to questions from Chinese and foreign reporters, "In the more than 4,000 years of Chinese history, although there have been incidents of traitors colluding with the enemy and rebelling, the Chinese nation will eventually be unified soon." After seeing Chiang Kai-shek's talk materials, Chairman Mao said, "Chiang Kai-shek and the Americans have different considerations on the issue of maintaining the unity of the motherland." Under Chairman Mao's decision, the Chinese government also won the support of the Soviet Union and some Eastern European countries through diplomatic efforts, defeating the American conspiracy to internationalize the Taiwan issue. Later, Chairman Mao specifically said this to Chiang Kai-shek in the message to compatriots in Taiwan: "Americans are unreliable." The Americans saw that Chiang Kai-shek was not cooperating with the United States in pursuing the two Chinas, so they planned to replace Chiang Kai-shek and let another person who was more compliant with the American language be the president. Under the activities of the Americans, there has been an activity to elect a presidential candidate in Taiwan's political arena. Some people recommended Chen Cheng, while others recommended Hu Shi. Hu Shi is a leader of the pro-American faction, but he is a literati with no political experience, so it is unlikely that he will be elected as the president. Therefore, the Americans gave their all to support Chen Cheng. Chiang Kai-shek is very clear about the Americans' conspiracy to engage in this trick. On the surface, he agreed to engage in democratic elections, but in fact he never intended to give up power. At this time, Chairman Mao expressed his attitude: "In Taiwan, it is better for Chiang Kai-shek to be the president." When he received foreign guests, he said something like this: "In Taiwan, it is better for Chiang Kai-shek to be the president, or Hu Shi, or Chen Cheng. In my opinion, Chiang Kai-shek is better. But we will not go to international events where he is present. As for the president, he is better. There will be changes in 10 or 20 years. If you give him food, you can give him some soldiers, and let him work as a spy and engage in the Three People's Principles. Everything that should not be denied in history must be properly estimated and cannot be denied. Everything." Chairman Mao said these words in front of foreign guests on purpose. These words did have a great international impact. Later, Chiang Kai-shek was able to win the so-called presidential election and became the president again. It was related to the fact that Chairman Mao deliberately said these words and gave him a certain degree of support. Chairman Mao and Chiang Kai-shek sent people to communicate with each other for the first time. Because Chairman Mao and Chiang Kai-shek have the same views on maintaining China's reunification, they cooperated tacitly on the issue of defeating the Americans' two-China's conspiracy. In addition, Chairman Mao made public his support for Chiang Kai-shek as the president internationally. Therefore, Chiang Kai-shek planned to establish a special relationship with Chairman Mao. Chairman Mao is also trying to win over Chiang Kai-shek in order to achieve the peaceful liberation of Taiwan, so he is also willing to communicate with Chiang Kai-shek. When Zhou Enlai received foreign guests on May 5, 1956, he asked them to pass the message to Chiang Kai-shek. If Chiang Kai-shek is willing to return Taiwan to the motherland, it will be a great credit, and the Chinese people will forgive him. I want to communicate with the CCP as soon as possible. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, both the Kuomintang and the Communist Party worked hard to find middlemen who could communicate. This person was finally found, and he was Cao Juran. Cross-Strait Secret Envoy Cao Juran. Cao Juran is a cultural person with a certain ability in political activities. In the past, he had close contact with the top figures of the Communist Party and the Kuomintang. Both the Kuomintang and the Communist Party regarded him as a guest of honor. After Cao Juran agreed to accept Chiang Kai-shek's entrustment, he traveled back and forth between the mainland and Taiwan many times to communicate between the KMT and the Communist Party. After many communications, the KMT and the Communist Party have reached some consensus on some important issues. For example, the KMT and the Communist Party both adhere to the One China and safeguard the unity of the motherland. Both the KMT and the Communist Party have the willingness to resolve the Taiwan issue peacefully. More importantly, through CAO's communication, both parties have a certain sense of trust. In July 1965, during the conversation between Chairman Mao and CAO, Chairman Mao himself wrote a poem Linjiang Ferry, in which there are two sentences: when the bright moon is still there, when will the colorful clouds return? It expresses Mao Zedong's hope that Chiang Kai-shek will return to the mainland, the sincerity of spending your old age. The outbreak of the Cultural Revolution interrupted the connection between the KMT and the Communist Party. In his later years, Chiang Kai-shek often thought of his days in the mainland and thought of the issue of communication with the mainland. Just 1 month before he became the 5th president, that is, on February 21, 1972, when Chairman Mao met with U.S. President Nixon, he actually called him an old friend. This news has been circulating in the United States and Hong Kong for a long time. Chiang Kai-shek noticed that Chairman Mao said to Nixon, "Actually, our friendship with him is much longer than yours." Chiang Kai-shek thought for a long time about what Chairman Mao said. At this time, Chiang Kai-shek was very isolated. Internationally, the CCP has more and more room for activities, while Taiwan has less and less space for international activities. Even the US President and Japanese Prime Minister have visited the mainland. Under such circumstances, Chiang Kai-shek was somewhat hesitant to contact the CCP. He believes that the initiative to communicate with the CCP at this time is a bit close to surrender. While Chiang Kai-shek was so hesitant, the CCP took a series of proactive actions. On the mainland, the CCP resumed the February 28 commemoration activities. Liao Chenzi also made a speech, re-emphasizing that patriotism is a family, and patriotism is not prioritized. People from all walks of life in Taiwan are welcome to visit the mainland, visit relatives and friends, and ensure their safety and freedom of coming and going. In 1975, the CCP pardoned hundreds of war criminals, and secret agents of the Kuomintang were arrested, and some of them were given jobs. After Chiang Kai-shek got the news, he admired Chairman Mao's broad mind, but he still didn't take the initiative. The reason is mainly that he did not find a suitable communication candidate. Cao Juran died in 1972. At this moment, Chairman Mao sent someone. The person Chairman Mao sent was Jiang Shizhao. At that time, Jiang Shizhao was 92 years old and seriously ill, but he still accepted the entrustment of Chairman Mao and Zhou Enlai, and was willing to undertake the task of communicating between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait. In order to protect the health of Mr. Jiang, Zhou Enlai specially arranged guards, doctors, nurses, secretaries, cooks, and nanny to accompany Mr. Jiang. After a period of hard work, I finally got in touch with the Kuomintang. Unexpectedly, Mr. Jiang died in Hong Kong on July 1 due to fatigue and poor rest. Because of the death of Mr. Jiang, the communication between the Kuomintang and the Communist Party of course has not been established this time. However, Chiang Kai-shek did not give up his efforts to achieve cross-strait communication. Unable to find a suitable communicator, he adopted a special method to send a signal to the mainland. After the Spring Festival in 1975, Chiang Kai-shek secretly found Chen Lifu, a veteran of the Kuomintang, and asked him to tell the CCP through a secret channel in Hong Kong, Mao Zedong can be invited to visit Taiwan. Chairman Mao was very happy to receive this news. But in 1975, Chairman Mao's health was already very bad, and Zhou Enlai was also seriously ill. Neither of them could visit Taiwan in person. Chairman Mao found Deng Xiaoping and personally confessed to Deng Xiaoping, "You can go to Taiwan on my behalf, and the two sides of the strait can use this as an opportunity to realize the three links as soon as possible." Chen Lifu was very happy when he learned that Chairman Mao planned to send Deng Xiaoping to Taiwan. In order to cooperate with this communication, Chen Lifu also published an article in Hong Kong titled "If I Were Mao Zedong," in which he said, "Welcome Mao Zedong or Zhou En to come to Taiwan to visit and restart negotiations with Chiang Kai-shek, so as to benefit the people of the country." However, just as Chen Lifu was actively trying to seek communication with the mainland, Chiang Kai-shek died of illness on April 5, 1975. The communication between the two sides of the strait was interrupted again.